What's going on, YouTube? For today's video, we have the Pokemon Draft League recap of Season 4. So the revival of the Pokemon Draft League has finally occurred. I'm recording this first thing in the morning, and it will be uploaded as soon as I have everything for the video. At least, at least as far as not the video is concerned of the video. You know what I mean? Like I need also to, have this uploaded at a reasonable time of the day, and also I need a thumbnail from Rin, which I have to help Rin get still. So I will, we will get all that figured out, and once it is figured out, we will go ahead and upload the video. So, what do we have going on here? Today is the Draft League recap, which is a classic of the Pokemon Draft Leagues, where I will basically go through, give everyone's draft a looking at, and give some advice, maybe some suggestions, but, these videos are never to be really taken seriously. It's more of a, if you want a more competitive style of team, you have access to this as a resource. That's really all this is for. It's not really to poke fun at or, say anyone's got like a bad team and is bad at drafting, haha, funny. It's not really like that. It's just sort of a resource for people to use if they want it. So, I think we should just get straight into it. So first up, we have Roots. Roots was the first pick of the draft, and he decided to pick Chen Pao. Oh, right, I forgot to preface this. So we did allow some Ubers. This is technically an Ubers draft, but we only allowed Ubers that we felt like were more close to being quote-unquote balanced. Basically the Ubers that are allowed are Pokemon that were an OU at one point, or, we as a community decided we're close enough to OU to where it's like, you could just plop that back and it'd be fine. So Chen Pao was his first pick. Then he's got Toxapex. Roots, notorious for trying to play stall and be a stun bozo in Yu-Gi-Oh! Picking Toxapex makes perfect sense. We have Megalodios. Okay, great offensive option. Got Flip Turn. Really broken right now. Zapdos, Tinglu, only rock setter it looks like on the team unless Annihilate gets rocks. We've got Grimmsnarl, we've got Annihilate without Rage Fist, Caterpie, which he decided to set as his Terra Captain, and Porygon Z, which also probably should be set as a Terra Captain, but I guess it isn't. So, what do we have here? Well, in simple terms, we got some HO, but we have a Toxapex to glue it all together, and also a Tinglu. You got the standard Grimmsnarl screens. Actually, no, this is an HO. This is more of a balanced team. But, you have very good offensive potential between the Chen Pao and the Megalodios, and also the Annihilate. Porygon Z also hits extremely hard, especially with the adaptability, the base 140 special attack, and with Terastallizing, you can turn it into an electric, or an ice, or a ghost type, and get those Terra double stab, absolute nuking ice beams, or thunderbolts, or shadow balls, but tragically, it does not look like Roots opted to make Porygon have access to all of those cool little things. So, Toxapex and Tinglu for defensive switching options. I don't dislike how they play off of each other. I feel like the Grimmsnarl is a little bit redundant, though, because between Toxapex and Tinglu, you're probably going to be able to switch defensively pretty well with just those two, especially since you also have a Zapdos to cover the ground weakness and ground neutrality of, Tinglu plus Toxapex's defensive core. And you also have the Megalodios with Levitate, so honestly, I don't really know how needed the Grimmsnarl is. Like I said, if you want to go for dual screens hyper offense on the team, you can. You can, just leave Grimmsnarl, put up both of the screens, and then just start nuking people with like Chen Pao and Porygon and, Megalodios. You know, that's an option, but I feel like more frequently he's gonna try and opt to bring the Toxapex and the Ting-Lu, because Hazards is really strong on a team where you have a bunch of Pokemon that are likely to OHKO opponents. You know, Chen Pao is a very strong Pokemon, got banned to Ubers because it hits very, very hard, and has amazing offensive typing. What can I suggest for this team? Well, if you look at the Hazards game, you only have the one Rock Setter. I'm not sure if any of the Pokemon other than Pex gets Spikes. I know Pex gets Toxic Spikes at least. Beyond that, like I said, I'm not sure if Annihilape has Stealth Rock or not. I haven't looked that deep into the Pokemon, but last I checked, Primeape does not get access to Stealth Rock, so why would Annihilape all of a sudden? I think Chen Pao maybe gets Spikes? Maybe? I don't remember. It's been so long since I've been able to use a Chen Pao. And our Defoggers are Megalodios, which is not a real Defogger. It's a Pokemon you do not use Defog with. And Zapdos, which most likely on this team is going to be frequently packing heavy-duty boots with Defog, because you do not want your Chen Pao to take 25% on switch-in from Stealth Rock. That's why Pokemon like Weavile started using heavy-duty boots. Because, you know, that's still a lot of chip. You'd be kind of surprised. So another thing I have noticed is there is a pretty good Fairy Dragon Steel core. There's a pretty good Flying Electric Ground core if you want to count the Zapdos as both the Flying and the Electric type. It's pretty solid. No Fire type. I mean, no Grass type. If you're looking for type cores, this team is missing a couple of those. But you do have the Ghost type and Annihilape to at least block Rapid Spins, so that's good. But again, you don't really have the Hazard stacking options to make that Annihilape really shine as a spin blocker. And also beyond that, you, I mean, you might want to consider putting Sticky Webs here, because, I mean, sure, this team is very fast, and by very fast, I mean Chen Pao is very fast. Sure, this team has solid speed, but, like, with webs, it just becomes backbreakingly fast. Like, how are you going to outspeed a Latios under webs, right? You touch the webs, your speed becomes, you know, times 1.5. Mega Latios, I believe, has a base speed of 110. I don't remember if it's just the offensive stats that get a boost when it megas, or if it's the speed too. I've never used Mega Latios myself, so I can't really give you a full explanation of that. But if it is, in fact, getting a speed boost, yeah, your webs would just make this team... It forces your opponent to defog, right? It forces them. And then you can take that defog turn and use it to your advantage by hitting them, or using Sword Stance with Chen Pao, you know. I don't dislike this draft. I'm not going to give, like, a rate... Nah, maybe I can give a rating number. Should I? Maybe I should. So, due to the lack of overall type coverage and the lack of Hazards game, I can't really give this draft like a 10 out of 10. I like the team. I would probably play something like this myself. I don't, you know, I don't have a problem with it. It's just I would prefer to have more of the type coverage that I am looking for. But we do have, you know, most of our course covered. We are missing the classic Fire, Water, Grass, though. Because no fire and no grass type. And fire, I feel like, is a pretty good type to have. It's good defensively against, you know, fairy types, but that's basically it as far as defensively. And, you know, there's... Oh, I just realized there's no steel type on this team. Okay, never mind. That's minus a whole point. Steel is a very important type. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this draft down from what I would have given it as a 7... all the way to a 6. Steel type, you know, having a Fairy Dragon Steel core, even if you're, you know, trying to play unseriously, I feel like it's kind of important to a draft, but if you don't really know what you're doing, it's not that big of a deal, right? I mean, you can obviously win without it. Pokemon is a game where you can win with basically anything you want, provided you, you know, are prepared properly. So this was a longer one, mostly because I'm still waking up, but I do want to try and get this video done quickly. So we're going to go ahead and up the tempo here. So next up, we've got Kitsune's team. Mega Lopunny, Jirachi, Garchomp, Ursaluna, Pecharunt, Florges, Iron Jugulus, Slitherwing, and Colossal. Alright, so we are lacking in the water-type variety immediately. We also do not have an electric Pokemon, and I believe none of these Pokemon get Volt Switch, but that's fine. You know, we have Florges gets defog, right? I remember Florges getting defog. I've used that one before, so I believe Florges still gets defog. Since this is played in national decks, yes, Florges will have defog, if it has ever had defog. You also have Colossal as a Rapid Spinner, fantastic. We have the Garchomp Jirachi combo, Mega Lopunny and Jirachi being impossible to switch into if Jirachi uses Doom Desire, which is basically Future Sight but Steel. That's the best way to describe Doom Desire. We have Ursaluna, 2 really hard-hitting normal types and also 2 really hard-hitting ground types, as you can see here. So we have a very strong offensive, just really hard to switch into core here. That being said, you know, a Steel type Levitate causes a lot of problems here, especially if it's like, I mean, I won't say Bronzong causes a lot of problems, but like, you know, if it's like a Fizdef Bronzong can switch into these 3 pretty well, which is something to consider. Now, Steel types, that's just a Steel type with Levitate, as an example. I mean, they're not super common, but like, you know, the ones that are there are gonna probably cause you a bit of an issue. But, you know, the Lopunny with the fighting type and the Scrappy makes it, you know, able to punch through the ghost types, which is something to keep note of. You know, maybe don't switch a ghost type in on this. Hazards game, I mean, Jirachi's got rocks, you've got Florges defog, you've got Colossal with rocks. I don't know how frequently this Colossal will be arriving to battles, but it will. You got the Rapid Spin, you got, I think Slitherwing might get Sticky Web, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it does, actually, because it's based on Volcarona. And yeah, this team is generally just hard to switch into. You have, like, Pecharunt, which is probably going to use something along the lines of Nasty Blot to, you know, make you have a nightmare with Malignant Chain. Okay, so what suggestions do I have? I mean, okay, so if you want to get really down to it, it looks like a lot of these Pokemon here were picked mostly due to being cool, because you have double Dark type, double Normal type, double Ground type, you know, Colossal, which isn't exactly a very cool looking Pokemon in my opinion at Kitsune Noble, and also, you know, Slitherwing. We have the Fairy Dragon Steel Core, though, which means that already by default, this draft is slightly better than Roots', at least as far as type cores is concerned, because I feel like Fairy Dragon Steel is the most important of the cores. Tragically, I believe that's the only core that we actually have completed, though. But it's okay, we have the ability to switch around with U-Turn with these two. And maybe Jugulus. I think Hydreigon got U-Turn, so why wouldn't Jugulus get U-Turn? I don't know. It's Pokemon from the future. I mean, it should get U-Turn. I feel like that's how it should work, you know? In the future, things are always turning around, so they should all know U-Turn, right? Clearly. If this doesn't get U-Turn, very sad. Also, if Slitherwing doesn't get U-Turn, even more sad. Because that's a bug type, you know, stab U-Turn is pretty nice. I mean, sure, this draft has a Fairy Dragon Steel Core, but I don't think overall, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that it is better than Roots'. The reasoning for this is, I mean, we have so many doubled up types here. Sure, we have the most important core, but we do not have... I mean, we don't have, you know, we don't have Tinglu, Zapdos, Megalodios, Toxapex looking like a standard OU team out here. You know, we don't have that. But don't get me wrong, though. I mean, we have some pretty cool HO. We got the Megalop, the Jirachi with the Doom Desire and the U-Turn and the Stealth Rocks. We got the Garchomp, we got the Ursaluna. I mean, we got rocks for days. Everything's rocks. Rocks will go up, and you will have to deal with them, and I will be punching you the whole time, is probably what Kitsune is thinking. So I'm going to give this draft about a 6. I mean, if you want advice on how to improve this draft, probably add a water type. That's pretty good. Flip Turn is also nice. You know, Alomomola would be insane here. Just to give you something defensively to eat moves. I mean, Pecharunt is there with the base, I think, 168 defense, but its other stats are only 88, which means that, I mean, physically, defensively, it's fantastic, but you already have plenty of physical defense, or at least the ability to take physical hits here, with the Garchomp being just naturally bulky in general. You have the Ursaluna, and you also have Colossal, who is probably capable of taking hits. He has hard body. He has a hard body, I should say. So if I have to give this draft a number, I mean, the completion of the Fairy Dragon Steel Core is already +1 point, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a 6 as well. Alright, so on to the next team, we have Mr. Titan T's Blazed Beaks, the return of the horse, which is now on the Lorse again, Spectrier. We also have Landorus T, Slowking Galarian, Ogerpon Wellspring, Metagross, Quaquaval, Togetic, Kirulum, and Dondozo. Okay, so we have a very standard, you know, stally defensive core with the Dondozo and the Slowking, but we have doubled up on the water types with the Wellspring and also the Dozo. We have a Kirulum, which is nice. We have a Metagross, which is not the most desirable steel type anymore, but it's still pretty good. 12 points for Metagross feels kind of sad, but giving it access to Terastallization actually makes it kind of a good Pokemon. I think it's kind of a steal here. You know, you get off that weakness policy, and then you Terra, and then you just sort of go ham. You know, you get your agility up on a turn where you would get hit by a super effective move. You live it because, you know, we're built for that. We double all of our stats. We make big punch. Exciting stuff. Okay, so how do we feel about this one? So Stealth Rock. That's it. Stealth Rock. Defog. And maybe Qua, I believe. No, Qua gets Rapid Spin, right? I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Qua gets Rapid Spin. But Defog is Togetic. Beyond that, the Hazards game... Oh, right, I forgot. This guy, he has Stealth Rock. I didn't even look at that guy. I don't look at Landorus Therian as a Pokemon. I just look at it as a demon, and I want it off my screen as quickly as possible. So I try to ignore that it exists. I mean, you know, you got 2 Rock Setters. That's good. No spikes, unless Metagross got spikes recently, which I don't think it did. I also don't believe that Landorus got spikes with the DLCs, but if it did, why? Why would they do that? So we have rocks. I mean, that's pretty good. You know, that's better than no hazards. We have the Spectrier with a big, you know, Spectrier offensive nuke power. We have Landorus with the big physical offensive nuke power. We got Galarian Slowking for, you know, Regenerator with Chilly Reception shenanigans. We got Ogerpon Wellspring to hit the opponent with a hammer. We have Metagross, we have Qua. We have triple water type, though, actually. I just realized we have triple water type. I don't really like triple water type, but at least he took the strongest Freeze Dry user to not lose to Freeze Dry. That being said, this draft still loses to Freeze Dry, because this Pokemon is ×4 weak to Freeze Dry, and this Pokemon is ×4 weak to Freeze Dry, and this Pokemon is weak to Freeze Dry, and this Pokemon is weak to Freeze Dry, and this Pokemon is weak to Freeze Dry. But, you know, I have decided to not really throw Freeze Dry at everyone's draft this time. I just wanted to point out that if you have a Pokemon that uses the move Freeze Dry, Mr. Titan T is going to have a lot of problems with it because his only Pokemon that can really take those on switches is Metagross. And I would argue that Metagross is easy enough to deal with to where, you know, you don't really have to worry about that much. Especially since this Metagross is a Terra typing. You know, it might Terra Water to avoid getting hit with a fire move, and then you just kill it with Freeze Dry. And then Mr. Titan T is in shambles. So, you know, that's something to look out for. Beyond that, I mean, what do we have here? We have, you know, HO, because let's be honest. And then you have, you know, just Pivot and Dundozo in general. I feel like this draft is on like two sides of the spectrum of Pokemon team building. You know, you have the HO part and you have like stall part, you know? And I don't really know which you're opting for more, but I do know that the speed tiers of this draft are kinda everywhere. Like, sure, you have Spectrier, which has great top-end speed, right? But then beyond that, like, your next fastest Pokemon is, I believe, Quaquaval. I don't remember what Quaquaval's base speed stat is, but I don't think it's above 110, because Meowscarada's the fast one from that generation, right? Right? Usually they only make one fast one, right? So I can't imagine that the Quaquaval is like base 115 or higher. And your type course. Okay, so I do not really count a one-pointer as a fairy type, but you do have the Fairy Dragon Steel if we do count it. So, to be nice, I will count this Togetic. However, I will not give you the extra point because Togetic is going out really sad at the 1 point total. The lack of a fire type means you don't have the fire, water, grass. You also have triple water types. I clicked the wrong Pokemon, triple water types. You do not want triple water types. This is, I mean, you like, usually you barely even want two Pokemon that are the same type. So having three, yikes. Let's see here. So, is there much else to say? Not really. I don't think the team's like particularly weak to ground or any other major types that you would see in a draft. But you do have a severe issue with the move Freeze Dry. You also have the issues with electric moves, I would say. I mean, you don't really have, like, you have Kiruim and Landorus that come in on those, and Landorus does not have a healing move. Getting it chipped hurts. I don't think Kiruim has a recovery move either, so you really don't want to get either of those chipped down. And then, you know, you're going to really need to rely on this Quaquaval a lot more than you're probably thinking due to how poorly your team handles hazards, beyond this Landorus using Defog, and if you're using Landorus for Defog every week, you might as well just grab a different Pokemon and have those 19 points back. So I do like how powerful this team offensively is, and I don't dislike its defense, but I think the lack of overall type diversity, I can't really give this a high score. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 5 and move on to the next draft. So next draft, Spirit, Miami Mimikyus. Okay, so Spirit has drafted Hell Nightmare Pokemon team, and everyone let him get away with it. So what do we have here? We have Fluttermane, we have Roaring Moon, and we have Charizard Y. So we have Sun plus 2 Pokemon that abuse the sun with their photosynthesis ability. However, Stealth Rocks, smile. Anyway, here's a Rotom Wash to prevent Stealth Rocks. Incredible, right? Good job. Clodsire, who is there. He is a happy little guy, and he's just very good defensively in general. Kartana feels kind of redundant, but okay, let's go. Screamtail. Okay, yeah, I like this defensive core. It is very hard to hit all 3 of these Pokemon with one move, without Mold Breaker Earthquake. Mold Breaker Earthquake very strong, as we have already established in this draft league. Mian Xiao. Okay. I mean, I like Mian Xiao. I've always been a fan of Mian Xiao. I would die for Mian Xiao. And finally, Miltank, which is a Terra Captain. It's kind of hard to see, but it is, in fact, a Terra Captain. I mean, I like the utility Miltank can actually give. It has, you know, access to, like, Heal Bell, and it can, you know, do some interesting things. Miltank did actually used to be fairly good in the lower tiers of Generation 4 and even Generation 5, but much less in Generation 5. So how do I feel about this draft? I mean, this is the hardest hitting draft so far. I mean, you know, Photosynthesis boosted, so base 135 special attack with a free choice specs on top of it because it has the sun, or you could boost its speed and then put a choice specs on it, so it's essentially got a Dragon Dance for free in the sun, but for special attack. Oh baby. Roaring Moon is the same thing, except for with less dramatic stats. You know, Zard Y itself hits pretty darn hard, you know, sun boosted sun move with a more billion special attack, and also you've got a Kartana with base 181 physical attack being the third hardest hitting Pokemon on the team. Think about that for a second. Kartana is third, possibly even fourth, depending on what type of move you use, hardest hitting Pokemon on a team. Just consider that. Just consider it. Now, this team does lack a little bit in the defensive department, though. Let's be honest. Clodsire is a bulky boy, but he is not the bulkiest boy. Screamtail is pretty good, though. You're gonna have to deal with the Screamtail. Once you deal with the Screamtail, that's your opportunity. You gotta get in there. But Spirit's probably not gonna just let you get in there. So, you're gonna have to figure out how to deal with that. Type-wise, I mean, you have the Fairy, Dragon, Steel. You have Double Fairy, even, but Double Fairy's okay. You know, you have Fire, Water, Grass. You have, you know, you have Psychic, Fighting, Dark. You have Poison. I forget the other types. But you have Ground, Electric, Flying. Like, he's got it all here. Clodsire's got Rocks, so he's got Hazards access. He's got probably the best defogger, Rotom Wash. I think Miltank also gets Stealth Rock, if I remember correctly. Which is just a neat little aside. Yeah, no, this team is complete. Like, genuinely. And I don't have much bad to say about it. So, I'm gonna go ahead. This is not a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm gonna be honest, this is not a 10 out of 10. A 10 out of 10 means this draft is going to go completely undefeated. And while I do think that this draft, with Spirit piloting it, could go undefeated, I feel like if you gave this draft to someone who knew the game a little bit less, they'd probably fumble it a little bit, and probably wouldn't go completely undefeated. So I'm going to give this draft a 9 out of 10, which I believe is the highest score I've ever given a draft in one of these recaps. Good job, Spirit. Alright, next up, Boston Blues. We got Dusty, behind my head. How do I, I'm gonna move myself. Wow, I did it. I have moved myself for this segment. Incredible stuff, incredible stuff. Alright, so we have Dusty, the Boston Blues. This is the team we are looking at right here. Okay, so let's speed it up. Let's speed it up a little bit. Okay, so we got Coco, Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Iron Bundle. Okay, Coco Bundle, Valiant, Coco Bundle and Valiant. Yikes. How did you let this happen? How did anyone let this happen? That's not something that should happen. Silvally, Iron Treads too. Yeah, this team is the team of the future, if you know what I'm saying. You got Treads, Quag, Praydilly, Gourgeist. Okay, so these 4 Pokemon will always be there. This Pokemon will always be there. Now, what does this mean? Okay, so what move beat these types? Ground takes neutral to ground, is Bundle in general, nightmare for ground types, but doesn't resist ground, and weak to ground. So, ground types, use those against this team. Everyone should draft a ground type. Ground is like the most important part of drafting. I feel like having a ground type is crucial. So yeah, if you're trying to beat this, bring ground type. You're gonna need it. So Sylvally is likely going to be Sylvally flying to prevent ground types. Sylvally fills out any type core you want, so by default I have to give the point for type cores because Sylvally can become anything. It's not bad, right? That being said, Sylvally is just a silly little guy with base 95 in every stat. He's not that threatening to deal with. Just hit him a couple of times and eventually he'll die. And then you can go crazy with your ground types afterwards. So, I mean, if you can survive the onslaught of Coco, Bundle, and Val, you're looking pretty good. That being said, though, I really don't know what Pokemon can beat all three of these defensively. That seems hard. Like Ferrothorn maybe, but then Val just kills you with a fighting type move. Like it's so hard to be defensive against this team. So you're gonna need to take the initiative. And honestly, the speed tiers of this team, especially with the Quark Drive being activated by Coco for all of these Pokemon, yikes, that's going to be very, very hard to do. This team, you know, you've got the Fire, Water, Grass right here. These are Fire, Water, Grass. You have Electric, Flying technically, and Ground. You know, I mean, like I said, you've already got all the types covered. Sylvally is a defogger, which is something to consider, and also a nightmare to deal with. You have Rapid Spin and Stealth Rock from the Treads. You've got Rocks and Spikes from Quag. Quag also having Unaware makes it a pretty strong Pokemon. And this is another really good team. Do I think it's as good as Spirit's team, though? I mean, I don't really... I personally do not like using Sylvally as the glue that holds our draft together. I feel like Sylvally is kind of a middling Pokemon, even though it can be any type. That being said, Sylvally can absolutely win matches, but so can any other Pokemon. That's just how Pokemon works, right? So, I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really know how to fix this, but I do think maybe we can opt to try and get a better ground resist than Gorgeist. Like, that's probably my only advice here. Like, I just don't like Sylvally being the answer to ground types, or like, you know, an Excadrill with Sandrush, which I believe was already drafted by somebody, so that is something to consider. You know, any ground type with like Rock Polish, you know, don't let me polish the rock, Orlando will sweep you like I missed a white, you know? You don't want that. So you're gonna do your best to avoid that, obviously. But, you know, Dusty probably doesn't need me to explain all that. Dusty is experienced in draft leagues. I already am aware of this just by seeing this draft. That being said, we do have to be a little bit cautious with the Sylvally being, you know, our answer to ground types. If I have to give this draft a score, I'd probably give it about an 8. It's pretty good. Like I said, I just don't like Sylvally. But like offensively, this team is as threatening as this one, but defensively, it's not quite there because Claude, Siren, Screamtail combined to be so good, and defensively, I mean, we have like what, Sylvally, Quag, Greydilly, XDD Shrug, Gorgeist. Like it's just not the same as like, you know, Claude, Rotom, Wash, Screamtail. It's not. It's good, but it's not the same. You know? Alright, after this we've got Ryevchi. Let me move the screen so you guys can see Ryevchi's team. And also, we'll move it all the way over. There we go. Alright, it's now all the way over. Okay, so we have Ryevchi with the Mega Venusaur, Zygarde, Samurott, Hisuian, which I feel like is overvalued at 17, but it's okay. Nihilego, Enamorus, Centiskorch, Cincino, Xurkitree, and we are the first team to go over the total of 9. Deoxys Speed and Spheal being Ryuji's favorite Pokemon and also mascot, Spheal. Okay, so defensively, great. We got the Mega Venusaur. Zygarde's hard to hit. You know, Mega Venusaur with thick fat gives protection from ice types. Samurott technically resists ice, but does not resist freeze dry. Nihilego does not do anything defensively. Smile. Nihilego has never done anything defensively. Don't ever look up Nihilego defensively. But it exists, I suppose. Enamorus, Centiskorch, fantastic answer to ice types. Cincino, which is pretty good with Tidy Up now. You know, remove those hazards, give yourself a Dragon Dance. Strong. Xurkitree, Tail Glow, Nuke, Absolute Nuke, base 173 special attack, very strong. And Deoxys Speed, which is legal and is a fantastic hazard setter and just lead in general. It also can be a late game sweeper with, like, you know, a Calm Mind set or even like a weird Specs set. It's very versatile, it's got solid stats, and the speed being base 180 is very good. It's crazy that they made Regieleki faster than this Pokemon, though. I cannot believe that they did that. Why would they do that? They honestly have ruined Pokemon by speed creeping Deoxys Speed's thing. It literally is called Speed Form. Why would it not be the fastest Pokemon? Why would they do that? Anyways, mini rant over. It is time to speed run the explanations. So, okay, so actually, like, defensively, this is fine. I mean, we have no steel type, though. That's the first thing that we need to point out. No steel type. So why do you need a steel type so bad? Well, even after the nerfs to steel type, meaning, you know, the removing of the resistance to dark and ghost, steel type is still very, very strong defensively. You want that. It also is really good for answering the opposing fairy types, which should be in every draft. Every draft should have a fairy type. If your draft does not have a fairy type, consider getting a fairy type, because fairy type is good. So no steel type means this is going to be a little bit hard. Nihilego is good to answer fairies, but, you know, it's Nihilego. It's made of paper. I would know. I've used Nihilego. To great success when I used it, and then someone tried to copy me last season and fumbled the bag dramatically. So, yeah, Nihilego, it's got its work cut out for it. I mean, Mega Venusaur with Sludge Bomb can also answer fairy types pretty well, provided it is not Tapu Lele. Zygarde, okay, so I feel like I don't really like Zygarde 50 in draft. I don't think it's that good. But that's just a me thing personally. I mean, it's an absolute nightmare to deal with. You know, Thousand Arrows is such a strong move. You got Coil Glare with sub. You've got, you know, Dragon Dance with sub. You can have Extreme Speed and run it banded. You know, that's not bad either. It's not bad. You have Ceaseless Edging with Samurott. You have Stealth Rocks from Nihilego. You can also put up Trick Room, but why would you do that with this draft? Actually, yeah, why would you do that with this draft? Enamorus, I feel like Enamorus is mid. Centiskorch is, it's not bad. It can be hard to deal with, honestly. Like, the typing, Flash Fire, I mean, it's okay. It's a 5-point Pokemon. I can't say it's good, but it's okay, you know? Cincino got a huge buff, and honestly, Loki is kind of really strong. You know, you have loaded dice with Technician Tail Slap now. After a Tidy Up, that thing is punching you really freaking hard, and you don't like that. Xurkitree is Xurkitree. Xurkitree, I think... no, Centiskorch totally gets you turn, right? It's a bug type. Why wouldn't it get you turn? So we have good, you know, pivot game overall. We got, like, Flip Turn. I believe Enamorus gets U-turn. Centiskorch, like I said, should get U-turn. Smile. Cincino, I believe, gets U-turn as well. Volt Switch. You know, so we can pivot around pretty well. But I have a question for you. Beyond this, how are you getting rid of the hazards? Defog, I guess? I guess. If you want to use Enamorus for that. I mean, it's not bad, but, like... feels like you're kind of... I prefer my defoggers to be defensive, you know? And Enamorous is not quite that. You know, neither is Cincino. So you're going to be struggling to find a defensive window to where you can use defog and get rid of those hazards. Yeah, the lack of the steel type means I can't quite give this draft anything above a 7. But looking at the Pokemon here in the general quality, overall, I think 7 is a good number for this draft. On to Antkiller. Okay, so Mega Blaziken. People asked, Cupid, why is Mega Blaziken legal? And I promptly answered them with, it's legal because of, it is legal because it actually doesn't hit as hard as regular Blaziken with Life Orb. So now Mega Blaziken is legal and regular Blaziken is not. Or regular Speed Boost Blaziken is not, I should say. After this, we have Great Tusk, Big Tusker, Chi-Yu. So we're already doubled up on fire types and doubled up on fighting types. Okay, that's not great. Steel type, Dragon type, Fairy type. Okay, that's good. Oricorio, Steel type again, and then Relicanth. So I don't count Oricorio for type cores. But if we did, you would have 3 fire types. So that's not the best. We are lacking in the electric type department. Again, we've doubled up on steel types, especially for 2 Pokemon that are steel types that are weak. Well, not weak to Earthquake, because Celesteela is immune to it, but like weak to fire. I almost said weak to Earthquake because that's what I default to saying, but you know, weak to fire is not what you want to see. Especially when there are Pokemon like Mega Charizard Y and Ogerpon Hearthflame running around. You gotta be cautious of those. Defensively, what do you have? You have Celesteela, you have Tapu Fini, you have Aegislash. So great, good defensively. You know, this is pretty good stuff. You can work with this clearly. However, is this good? No, not quite. I mean, you hit really hard, that's cool, you know, you've got Hyper Offense with a Great Tusk, okay? Hydrapple doesn't exist. This Pokemon isn't real. I have never seen this Pokemon put in work. No. Like, I see how it can be good theoretically, but, like, not here. I don't like being doubled up on Steel types, especially 2 Steel types that I believe neither of them get Stealth Rock. That's something to note, is that I don't think either of these get Stealth Rock. Great Tusk is good, though. I mean, we all know what Great Tusk does, so the hazards game on this team is fine. You also defog with Fini. Fini is good. Fini is very strong. I mean, okay, so if we're getting down to business to defeat the Huns, we have, you know, we definitely have the 2 most important cores of, you know, the FTS, Fairy Dragon Steel. We have the Fire, Water, Grass. We have Flying, Ground. Where's the Electric type? There isn't one. Well, that's fine. We can work with this. Do we have Dark, Fighting? Do we have a Psychic type? Or Corio, I guess. XDD Shrug. So things to consider: filling out those type cores, having a better rocker than just only Great Tusk, because you know Stealth Rocks is important. You don't want to get your Chi-Yu chipped, you know, which is a valid argument. However, plus 252 special attack, Overheat, Terrafire, Chi-Yu, and the Sun, Oko's Blissey, right? However, Chi-Yu is not allowed to Terra in this, and that's something important to note. However, Chi-Yu will still hit very hard, and getting it as late as round 3 is pretty good. So I'm actually going to be breaking up this recap into 2 parts. I didn't actually mention that, but I do not think that uploading an 1.5-hour long video of talking about Pokemon is a good idea. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to end this as part 1. And I will give you guys part 2. I'm going to upload them at the same time, but I want to make it easier for everyone to find where their parts are. So I will go ahead and wrap this up by giving Ant Killers draft a number, and that number here is going to be 6. I mean, sure, your team's fantastic offensively and has solid defensive options, right? But again, you've doubled up on so many types that it's just like, you know, like, the Blaziken is redundant because these two Pokemon can do what Blaziken does already. So why is this here? Why did you waste your first pick on this Blaziken? That's what I have to say about this. This is what I feel when I look at Blaziken being the first pick as a fire fighting type, and then you pick another fighting type and then another fire type. That's how I feel. Why did you pick the Blaziken? It doesn't make sense. So, yeah. And then the rest of the team suffers for it because you've just spent 20 points on a Pokemon that's redundant. So, like, you know, you have 12, 8, and 3 at this point, but if you remove this 20 points and replaced it with, like, a 10, you know, suddenly you can have, like, 13, or maybe even 15, and then you can go, like, you know, 13, and then you can go, like, a 5 here, and then you have a much more balanced team in the bottom end. I mean, you're free to play however you want, but, like, I'm not gonna give this, like, a super high score. I'm gonna actually go with a 6. I think a 6 is fair. So, this will conclude the first half of the recaps. Why am I breaking these down? Because I'm gonna try and avoid having an hour-and-a-half video for the draft recaps. I feel like, you know, the retention is very low for these, and I would like to at least get you guys to look at, you know, your own team. So it'll be easier to find your own team if I break it up into 2 parts. So I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I hope you all enjoyed the first half of the recap, and I will get back to you with the second one shortly. I'm actually going to record it immediately, but I am going to be, you know, I'm going to be going and splitting this video into 2 parts. So I will be right back. Well, not really be right back. I will see you in the next video. I can't say be right back, because, you know, I'm technically not going to be right back because it's going to be whenever you watch the next video. So I will see you in the next video. Later.